seek the advice and the help of others more. Ask questions to people that are coaches, mentors, specialists, topical experts. Even talking to like customers or just passionate individuals. Like I said, especially in the areas where I lack information, because that will give you a lot of perspective on just the things that you don't know or you don't see yet. And that will really tremendously increase potential success and simplify the road to success.
Well, you're in for a treat today. We just had a great guest on our podcast you're going to get to listen to and watch on our Second in Command podcast YouTube channel as well. Johan Stoop is the COO for Pause Breathwork. I've been friends with the CEO and founder of Pause Breathwork for about 14 years now and watched Samantha Skelly really scale up the business. But in the last 2.5, 3 years, Johan Stoop has been there as her COO, really helping to double the size of the organization, create more profitability and more margin in the operation. He's going to talk about breath work and how we can bring it into our daily lives and to our businesses, how they're running a remote organization with a truly global reach, and how they're actually scaling this organization through kind of a lot of stuff around mindset and leadership. I think you'll love the opportunity to learn from Johan and even learn a little bit more about breath work, but also learn some of the best practices into growing a best brand like this as well. We'll see you on the inside, and please share this episode too. So Johan, welcome to the Second in Command podcast.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you for having me. It's really a great pleasure to be a guest and also be part of your amazing community at COO Alliance.
Yeah, it's wonderful having you as a COO Alliance member. I'm also super excited to get to learn about you and to learn about Pause Breathwork. I first met your CEO, Sam Skelly, probably 10, 12 years ago in Vancouver, Canada, where we were both living at the time. And I've been able to kind of watch her career and watch this business grow up. And then I've also been able to experience some of her workshops. I was at a pause session that she did for Archangel Academy about a year ago. And over the years, again, just having been around her. So I'm super intrigued to find out who you are, who's the guy that she's gotten, by her side, running her company for her and being able to learn from you and learn about Pause. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the company, and we'll kind of start there, and then we'll go backwards into learning about you as well.
Sam is amazing. Pause Breathwork really is a company that is focused around, well, the name kind of already says it, right? It's breathwork. For those of you listening that don't know what breathwork is and what it can do for you, obviously we have an app where you could totally check that out. Our mission with Pause is really to unlock your infinite potential as a human being through using the power of breathwork, right? So we offer trainings for someone to become a breathwork facilitator, which will, as a person, will allow you to safely guide individuals or groups online or offline through the practice of breathwork. The idea of that is that you can, add it to your existing coaching business. You could turn it into your own business, or really you could use it as a mental health and wellness tool for inside your current company or organization. The company itself started about 7 years ago by Samantha Skelly. She was running a coaching practice before this. Pause was introduced in around 2019 as an extension to Hungry for Happiness, which is, as I mentioned, Sam's coaching part, where she really focused on body image coaching. So it's very female-oriented body image coaching. She kind of saw an opportunity in some of the learnings and teaching that she had. And this is a story on its own, right? It's like a divine intervention on the highway. I think it was actually driving from Vancouver back to her parents or something along those lines. And she got this divine intervention of, hey, this breathwork thing, we should do something with that, right? So she saw the opportunity, started that company in 2019 as kind of a sub-company underneath Hungry for Happiness, and started from the ground up. And so with Pause, we really offer two key programs. One is that breathwork facilitator program. The other is more focused around somatic coaching. The idea of breathwork is that you really get out of your head, because when you do meditation, like you tend to get all sorts of thoughts, right? But breathwork gets you out of your head and into your body, which is actually where most of the emotions, stress, anxiety, everything else is bottled up over time, right? And by being able to do that, it's actually we call it meditation on steroids. And that alone is such a captivating concept. We basically want to bring that out in the world because we know what it can do for people that are stuck in their head and are basically numb to what they are and what they should be feeling as a natural human being. We have those two programs. We also have an app, as I mentioned. It's iOS only for now, but we're building out Android. We're going to launch that early next year. We are fully remote as a company, right? We're We have staff located all over the world, but we mainly focus on the US and Canada when it comes to the people that we target. We currently have over like 1,500 alumni. In the past 4 years that we've been running Pause Breathwork. And maybe something interesting is that we've doubled revenue year over year for those years as well, which is a good indication of, the state of the company and where we're going, where we're growing with this, because really the mission is where the impact is.
Sam's, I think, was really in Pause. It feels like it was really the first in this industry. I mean, I know breathwork has been around for thousands of years when you go back into like different groups and different indigenous groups, but kind of making it into a business and certifying people. I remember when she told me she was going into breathwork, I kind of laughed. Like, it just seemed like such a silly thing. I was like, Sam, like, you're going to teach people how to breathe? Like, we're pretty fucking good at it. We're all breathing. Like, what are you talking about? I had no idea what she was talking about. And I think she really was into this at a very early stage. Is that accurate?
She actually found breathwork in Bali, I think around that 2010, 2012 range. So she was exposed to it very early. Back then it was kind of more of a hippie lifestyle, kind of new age kind of thing. And you'd be surprised. I mean, I know you've tried it. The moment you try it, something happens in your body, like physically, that you feel. Just that if we're able to bring that to the people that can bring that to the masses, I mean, she was enlightened in that sense, because everybody thinks, oh, breathwork isn't it just breathing? But no, it's like very conscious breathing and doing specific things to get specific outcomes as well, right? You have breathwork to release anxiety, you have breathwork to get more clarity, be able to prepare you for when you need to focus or before you go on stage, or just to release like stuck emotions that are there in your body. So there's a whole range, even before you go to sleep, making sure you have a good night rest. So there's a whole range of that. And I think Sam saw that as one of the earlier person really turning that into a business. There are a couple of others, but they have a slightly different angle. But Sam really is a pioneer in that sense. And she's going to hate me for saying this, but I think she's kind of the breathwork queen around here.
What was it that you saw in joining this business and in joining Sam? What was it that saw you like that kind of grabbed you to get involved?
Why I got to Pause was really for two reasons. One was a very personal motivation, but I was working in corporate for roughly 10 years. And I really felt, especially with the pandemic, Pandora's box of possibilities when it comes to remote working and really doing what you think you should be doing. So there was a personal motivation there to be able to do something from paradise, from Costa Rica, where we were living now with my wife. At the time, I was working in the Netherlands for FedEx. I kind of hit a ceiling in terms of responsibilities and focus areas, and just the excitement I got out of work. So I really was looking for something else. The other part to that is that I was the same as you when I was told about breathwork. I mean, my wife introduced me to it. She was like, let's do some breathwork together. I was like, yeah, no, thanks. I'm good. But when I combined like the possibility of working for Pause with doing breathwork, it literally took me 3 minutes. 3 minutes of doing one breathwork exercise, and it just, it's hard to explain, but really something physically changed in the way I looked at it. That kind of aha, or I guess I had my own divine intervention of sorts, that kind of led me to think, okay, this is something different. This is something bigger that I absolutely need to do something with in order to help other people as well. What is the best way for me to do so? Well, that was the role of, director of business operations at Pause. And so that led me to go through the hiring process, because Sam at the time was really looking for a right-hand man or a right-hand person to be able to support her with all the things that she was running up against when it comes to running a business as a founder, as a visionary, and really looking for that operational support in all the things, really.
My experience with therapeutic breath work, and then I've done like box breathing and Wim Hof stuff, but the therapeutic breath work is the one where I've been in tears. I've had the entire body kind of tingling. I've had almost out of body experiences. At one point, I felt like I was a little bit on a almost like a ketamine trip, where I almost felt like I was falling a little bit back through space. It was just a really profound experience. My wife, the first time she did it, called me up, and she was almost sweating and crying, but laughing at the same time. And I'm like, what the is going on? And she literally had like tears streaming down her face of pure bliss and pure happiness. But she's like, I just did an hour and 15-minute breathwork session and it blew my mind. And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, it was almost like a When Harry Met Sally, like I want what she's having kind of a moment. It was pretty cool stuff.
People ask you, what are you on? But even though I'm Dutch, I'm not that much into drugs at all. No, but I had similar experience with this. And I don't remember exactly who it was that said he tried out probably every drugs on the planet, right? And he said the closest thing to getting to a altered state experience or an elevated state experience that did not have to do with any physical substance was through breathwork. Knowing that you can do so much with with the force of your own body and just your breath is something truly amazing. And I wish more people knew about it and more people get to experience it, because it truly, especially in the pandemic, I mean, it brings people back to their bodies and not being stuck in the rat race, to routine, the mindset.
It has to have been massive changes for you in going from a big corporate environment like a FedEx and going into an entrepreneurial organization like Pause. And how many employees do you have? How many kind of freelancers roughly in the network, to give people a scope of the size that you went to and the size that you're running?
My last corporate job was at FedEx, where we had over 500,000 people worldwide. My scope there was really focused on IT management. So I had a team, multiple teams actually. I was running 25 people and then, bigger budgets. The change to Pause was big in a sense that, at a large corporate, you're part of a subset of people, responsibilities. You have a very specific focus around a product. It's part of a bigger strategy. And then as a result of that, there's a lot of red tape. There's just a lot of things that you have to go through before, you can steer the ship into a different direction. Even though we would consider our teams kind of, the speedboats at the time. But okay, changing from that speed mentality culture, which by the way, the culture was great there, but changing to a borderline startup going into scale up was definitely a breath of fresh air, no pun intended. The thing is, you, instead of being responsible for a small piece of the pie, all of a sudden you're responsible for literally everything.
The pie, yeah, and the ingredients.
Yeah, and that's both amazing, intriguing, inspiring, and super challenging, right?
Yeah.
So at the time we ran a team of, I think it was like 30 people. This was 2.5 years ago, 30 people. Right now, we are actually doing a lot better and we have less people on the team. So we mostly work with like contractors. So because of the remote situation that we're in, we have around 24 people on our list right now that do various jobs for us. We have 4 people on the leadership team. I'm basically being the second in command, responsible for the areas of operations, obviously, like the projects that are company wide, finance, legal, HR, admin, IT, and technology, which includes our app. That kind of spans the range of my responsibilities within Pause right now. It's interesting because coming from a corporate, and people call it cushy, it's not always cushy, but it's a cushy job, into being responsible for all the things and sometimes not having the right people or even skills to be able to do those things. It's a massive change. And even though I think over the years, I've kind of accumulated, I'd say, quite some knowledge in different areas, be it, IT, be it product design, be it marketing, be it sales, not that much, but things like, finance, HR, management, etc. But when you're in an environment like this, it's like you really have to try and find your way and go through the weeds to find the big things to focus on. And especially at the beginning, that was very challenging because I had very little time to kind of ramp up because things were already going at hyperspeed. That's, in a nutshell, my transition from corporate to startup/scale up.
Was Sam worried at all about bringing somebody in who was coming from such a corporate environment? Like, what did she see in you, do you think, that allowed her to feel comfortable that you weren't going to be too corporate coming into this role?
I think a part was, the main reason why I think Sam had chosen me, even though I came with a corporate background, is because of the diversity of my background, not just in corporate, but also in, having started my own company after I graduated from university. My, diverse background as well. Yeah, just a number of the areas that I was interested in, but also passionate about. I think that's a big thing, and that was a thing that I missed in a lot of the corporate environment, was really that fire, that passion to be able to get shit done. That was for me the missing link, and I think that was one of the parts that she especially liked, because she is very fiery, very visionary. Like everything has to happen yesterday, preferably. And in that sense, I can lift off of that, but I also know that at times I need to push the brakes and say, okay, look, is this actually the most important thing that we need to focus on right now? So having that balance, kind of that mediation power or skill, I think was one of the main reasons why she went on board, and why we have been operating for the last 2.5 years. So far, I think we're still doing a good job.
I'm curious on the pushing the brakes. It's one of the things I spoke about in my book, The Second in Command, that just came out, was sometimes the COO is the brakes to the entrepreneur's gas. One of our other clients said that the COO is the leash to her dragon. I'm curious, how do you get someone like Sam, who is a perpetual motion machine, super high energy, very positive, like we're going 1,000 miles. How do you say no to them, and how, or not now? Like what specifically do you do to say that, so that we don't get them frustrated, so that we don't get them feeling like we're debating them, and so that sometimes we can save them from themselves?
There is a whole sequence of steps there. The first thing is to just acknowledge the idea and acknowledge the passion. I think that's the one thing that visionaries, I'm generalizing here, but visionaries in general, visionaries are looking for, is that validation of, hey, this seems like a great idea. And then the only question becomes, okay, is this like the most important thing right now? Like how good of an idea is this if we think through, the steps to get it done, the results that might come from it. The balance here is, and this is an ongoing process. Like there is no one way to say this, but acknowledgement first, that's definitely a win for anybody. After, it's going into, okay, asking more questions, basically, for them to be able to translate the idea, which might be very clear in their head, in Sam's head, to something that becomes more concrete. And as you ask questions, it's not that the motivation goes down, but the idea becomes clearer, and then the opportunity also becomes clearer. That's one of the ways that we try to, first of all, assess ideas. And then once we have a good enough assessment of what it is that needs to be done, then we can say, okay, we're going to do this now, or we're going to park it and move it in the time frame that is most likely to give us the highest reward.
You line up with this exactly how I do as well. I know that I talked about this at one of our COO Alliance events sometime in the last year, that I think you articulated this part better. Every entrepreneur, and even most people, but for sure entrepreneurs, are starving for praise, right? They just want someone to say, I love that idea. And to say that at the starting point is, I love that idea. And then what I always say is, let me ask you a few questions so I understand it even more, because I know you've been thinking about it for a while. Because as you said, it's clear in her mind, but when an entrepreneur tells anyone their idea, it's kind of like explaining your dream. You ever try to tell somebody what your dream was? At some point, you're like, oh, like I can't explain it. It's too much. There was too much in my head, right? Well, that's what they're trying to do with their project. So by saying, as you put it, I love that idea, let me ask you a few questions, that gives them a safe space to share a little bit more, where we're not debating them. And then, as you put it, then we can say, hey, maybe it's a not now, right? Versus a no. So I think that's a really, really good approach. Do you ever do that in front of the others on the leadership team, or do you try to do that privately with Sam? Because there's a bit of a balance there as well, with kind of protecting them, but also being able to say no to them. What are your thoughts around that?
I think I would ask questions first, regardless of the topic. I will always ask any questions, even if it's just clarifying questions. I once had an experience where, and this was corporate, but you had a room full of people, and at some point everybody had the same question. And when they said, are there any questions? Nobody raised their freaking hands. And I was always the one that said, hey, what about this? Because I think half the room here is curious about what the hell is going on. So asking questions let's say within the leadership team, is the best way for us all to get on the same page. What I do, and I have a very recent example of this, when it becomes something that is very dear to the visionary Sam in this case, I try to do it separately, so that we first align as kind of a pair, like CEO and kind of the COO, second in command. We align as a pair before we say, hey, look, this is probably the best route to go, because the last thing you want is just to create rumble within the leadership team. Even though I have to say, like, between mutual respect and openness, we are probably at a 10 out of 10 when it comes to just being able to discuss everything and anything within the leadership team, right? But the first reaction is never, no, we can't do that. Not for me, not from others either, because there might be other topics around marketing or delivery. It's like, okay, let's explore, let's see what this means. Let's see what the cost, the energetic cost, the time is that for us to do this, and what are the details. What are you looking for? Like, most of the times, what I find is a visionary might come with a solution rather than a problem. And I think discussing and trying to understand what the real problem is that needs to be solved is probably more importantly than just implementing whatever comes out of the thought process of the visionary itself, right? Uncovering that so that you get a better solution for the whole company is I think the most important thing. And doing that as a group is even more powerful, because then you can align and share the pool of thought and the pool of meaning with the leadership team before expanding or rolling anything out to the rest of the company.
Yeah, I agree with your whole assessment of all of that as well. And I do like where you even said the tie in between making sure that the CEO and COO are on the same page before we go to that next stage. Something I think you guys are doing really well is it feels like you've done a really good job at not making this the Samantha Skelly show. Like, this is very much a brand. Pause is the brand. The events and products and stuff are branded. I mean, she's still there as a thought leader, but has that been something cognizant that you or she have been able to move away and you've made the brand Pause and less of her as the thought leader? Or
yes, this is something that we started basically 2 years ago, and our aim was really to make Pause the brand and at the forefront. The idea for Sam is, in an ideal world, is for her to be able to have the company run on its own. At the same time, I mean, her personality, her energy, her connections, her passion for this work still means that she is very much a driver of the business. So while on the, let's say, the storefront says Pause Breathwork, it's in the background, it's still, up to a certain extent, very much the Sam, the Sam Skelly show, which is good because of what it brings us. At the same time, we're very cognizant that there are areas where we get to leverage to get 10x out of that, and others that we need to let go of and basically find a way for the company to continue on its own without Sam being in those areas. It's a constant, not debate, but a constant tension span that we're looking to solve to really make Pause a household brand that will still be there in 150 years or more.
I spoke with her a little bit about that a year ago, and I gave her a suggestion of having an annual licensing fee for the 1,500 certified Pause Breathwork people, kind of having them pay an annual fee to keep using the license and keep being a certified person. Do you do anything with that at all, or is it kind of, we've trained you, you're off and going, wish you luck?
So we did try out a licensing product. It was not as successful and as operationally smooth as we wanted it to be. There were a lot of ins and outs. And so we tried actually 2 different products, and we're about to launch something that is way simpler than before, just to make sure people continue to have the energy richness really that is part of the containers in the trainings that we offer, basically at a licensing fee. The answer to your question is yes, and with mixed success. I think every iteration we learn and we improve, and eventually we'll have a pool of people that are kind of riding the mission with us in multiple ways, and this is having a licensing fee is one of them.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch, a brand like CrossFit. CrossFit was literally just a brand that they taught people, they licensed it, and then every CrossFit location is independent, but they have CrossFit in the name, right? It could be like Costa Rica CrossFit or the Nosara CrossFit or your neighborhood CrossFit, like CrossFit's in the name. But they were a huge, huge business that didn't have to do anything other than they licensed people and sent them off their way and made sure the brand was always very omnipresent. I think there's that certified breathwork, the Pause certified breathwork person is going to be a powerful part of your future. Where are you taking the Pause brand? What's the vivid vision of where you're taking things?
We are indeed starting up with we call Pause and Breathe events, which are literally our alumni and facilitators doing their own small events across different places and spaces across the nation. Really, it's US and Canada mostly. That is a part of one of the good things that we're currently trying out, and that's, I think, where there's also a lot of potential in, where we're going when it comes to the rest of the brand. So our Vivid Vision, and you've read the Vivid Vision document, which I think is great. And our idea is to grow the business through growing the impact, right? So we really want to impact, and we actually monitor that. So we want to impact 1 million people by 2030 through the power of breathwork, which is literally our mission. By the end of 2024, though, which is kind of the scope of our current Vivid Vision, is that we want to double again next year, basically growing the company to higher levels, having 1,000 alumni come through during that last year of 2024. So 1,000 throughout the whole year. At the same time, we realize that there is quite a lot of potential for breathwork in general to come to the different stages, and maybe even inside organizations like companies. One of the ways that we're trying to leverage that is through making our app more accessible to a larger crowd. So we're developing Android as well for our app, and with that, I think we'll be able to also provide a very easy way in for larger groups of people or companies to be able to just do certain breathwork exercises throughout the day with their employees, with their teams. And funny story, we actually do this ourselves as well. So within the company, we start every meeting with 1 to 3 minutes of breathwork, literally to get everybody on the same page, any stress, anxiety, or weird thoughts out, focus back so that everybody can really start with kind of a neutral state, body and mind, and then be their best during the meeting. So that is something that really works well for us. And obviously you kind of have to if you're in a health and wellness space and your company is called Pause Breathwork, right?
Yeah, but I've seen companies that aren't even in the breathwork space or health space do something like this or very similar. One of our former clients in the COO Alliance runs a company called Dry Farm Wines, and they do a 15-minute morning meditation or breathwork every single day with all of their in-person and remote employees. It's the way they start every single morning, and they sell wine. I mean, albeit it's organic and toxin free and all that stuff, but yeah, I think it's becoming more of not even a trend. I think companies are realizing if we care more about the employees and we care about their health and we care about their healthy mind and the healthy mind and a healthy body, they'll care more about the company, right? So instead of just starting the meeting with what's our goals, let's start with centering ourselves and releasing some of the negative energy and showing up in a better way. Our employees go, wow, you care about me. And then they work harder that day and they work harder in the meeting. So I think you're doing it. I think you're on the forefront of it.
Absolutely. I mean, they feel better. They come up with better ideas. They do work faster. They're more focused, and they feel great at the end of the day as well. Which means they might stick around as well for supporting the mission. So it's a win-win-win.
I like that. I talked to Chip Wilson, who I'm friends with, the founder of Lululemon, who's also here in Vancouver, and we were talking at a lunch one day, and he said that he practices doing breath work at the stoplight, at a red light. Anytime he's driving his car and he hits a red light, literally, like if he hits 7 of them, he'll do a 20-second breath work, a 35-second breath work, and all he does is this box breathing at the lights. I'm like, that's amazing. He goes, well, I'm sitting there anyway. I'm either going to sit there and get pissed off that I'm sitting, or I'll use that time as a forced check-in. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, what a great idea to, if you're walking and you hit a don't walk sign, do 15 seconds of, box breathing.
Absolutely. Even if you're just walking. Walking your dog or just walking around the neighborhood.
I did a hike when I was somewhere in Colorado, and I had nose strips on, and I put on the breathing strips over my mouth. So I couldn't open my mouth for an hour. And then I only did nose breathing for the entire hour hike. And it was crazy to try to do that.
Remind me, is Colorado a very dry state?
It's a very dry state. Yeah.
Nice.
It was tough, but it was interesting to show myself that I could actually do a 1-hour hike without being, and I've always been a mouth breather, but I'm trying to flip that to doing a nose one. So you guys are a remote company. You're fully remote, but you also said something else that's intrigued me, that you're focusing mostly on Canada and USA as your clients. Is breathwork not a global thing yet? Or is it just that you've got such a big target market in North America that you're staying focused on that for now? What are your thoughts around that?
Our target market really is the US and Canada. We focus right now mainly on female coaches, just because of the buying power and the geolocation of where people are when the programs are actually being delivered. It makes the most sense. Now, that's to say that we also have clients from the UK, from Germany, from South Africa, from Australia and New Zealand. So like people are coming, but our main focus is really on the US and Canada, just because of the location and of the awareness and the industry that is already there.
And you mentioned that you're a fully remote company. I know that Sam's based in, I think she's still in San Diego, or she moved to Austin too.
No, she's in San Diego still. She had.
And then you're based in Costa Rica. And then you said most of your employees are fully remote as well. Any secrets that you're learning on running a fully remote team? Anything that works really well for you to keep people focused, productive, connected?
There are a number of things, and some that we had to learn the hard way, I guess. But one thing that is really helpful is to have the entire team just come together on a daily basis, depending on which team it is, right? There are smaller teams, smaller sub teams, but to come together on a daily basis and really do a daily huddle. And that can be in the format of, announcements and challenges, or if you're more like operational, then you say, okay, what did I do yesterday? What am I focused on today? And am I blocked anywhere? That's more like an agile development approach. Just having that daily touch point is extremely helpful because it gets everybody on the same page every single day. Outside of that, we connect every month with the entire team, with everybody in the company actually, to do a pause and connect. And there, the idea is to really not necessarily talk about work, but really share with each other what's, what everybody's appreciated for. So that creates a very, I would say, a very strong connection. And then what we've started doing recently as well is we're going back into live events. So we had an event last week in close to San Diego at the Oaks Retreat Center, which is beautiful, by the way, where 50 students and a large part of the team came together to do a more advanced training in person. Those types of activities really help for the team to connect and to bond. So we try to do those more in the work context as well. We're toying with the idea of doing an kind of a all company retreat. I think we tied it to our business goals as well. So there's double incentive for everybody to get together and maybe go to Hawaii at the end of the year. And in terms of us as a leadership team, we try to meet in person every quarter just to connect on every level. And that's literally on every level. We'd obviously talk about business, but also, enjoy time off, do a crazy activity and just bond.
I love that. I love that you're also using the daily huddles, and I love that you're branding some of your things, like calling it a pause and connect. Those are all kind of a little bit culty, which is exactly where company culture and growth really comes from. All right. I want you to go back to the 21, 22-year-old Johan and give him some advice. What advice would you wish you'd known back then that you know to be true today?
This is always the best question. It tears me apart because I wish I could go back. But anyway, the advice I would give my 22-year-old self would really be to seek the advice and the help of others more. Ask questions to people that are coaches, mentors, specialists, topical experts. Even talking to like customers or just passionate individuals. Like I said, especially in the areas where I lack information, because that will give you a lot of perspective on just the things that you don't know or you don't see yet. And that will really tremendously increase potential success and simplify the road to success. This is also where the COO Alliance comes to me as a huge value, because it's like not a forced connection, but it's like a pool of knowledge that you get to tap into and share with others as well. So that kind of answers that need from way back when.
Yeah, I feel your pain, by the way. Every time I'm asked that kind of question of what would you want to tell your younger self, I really wish I could go back and tell me that, but I guess we're also young enough that we can tell ourselves that now and, benefit from that in the future. So super glad you're a member of the COO Alliance. Super glad you're helping my friend Samantha Skelly with her Pause Breathwork and really building this out to be such a strong global brand. Thanks so much for sharing with us on the Second in Command podcast. Of confidence, right? Where confidence can go into cocky, it's if you can just throttle it back a little bit. But I love that, like learning from some of the wisdom of those that go before us too. It's profound how people that are older can just bring a level of wisdom that we discount because like, oh, they don't know how to use technology. Yeah, but they understand the people side of the business and strategy